Right, team, I hope we can all see my screen. Can you all see my screen? All right, cool. Well, very warm welcome to you all. Welcome to webinar 4, and this is, us. Like I say, we're revising a lot of content as we go through. There's some stuff here that for many of you that are anchoring, it might be new for you. So please truly tune in. We are going to be looking at the role of exercise, some fundamentals of exercise and certain principles. And we're also going to have a very light peep into something about nutrition. But we're going to look more at nutrition in the next session, which is in 2 weeks' time. The next webinar is in 2 weeks' time, but next week there is another bonus opportunity available for you, which head coach Pri is organizing. Has that been announced, Pri, already? Okay, cool. So you're going to have a whole host of announcements at the end, I guess, today, in addition to the assignments. So we'll do that. For now, can I get somebody to very quickly read out the objective? We want to rush through. So I just want somebody to represent this. I want all of us to listen to it as an affirmation. And I'm going to go straight into today's session. We won't have reflections here, but I just want somebody to, and we all read along as an affirmation. So who'd like to do this? All right, Komal, go for it.
Objective at the end of this challenge. Can you hear me?
100%.
Yeah. I have reset my relationship with food, exercise, and myself, and built powerful new habits that contribute to my peak health. I understand the role of my body, mind, and intellect and how they work together for peak health. I recognize that my environment, community, and conversations shape my habit and create consistency. I share and embody my lifestyle openly, inspiring and empowering others to begin their journey, becoming the go-to health leader in my communities.
Awesome. So we're doing this again as a habit forming practice to rewire our neuronal pathways and patterns. It's important that all of us read along with this and know that this is what we're affirming, this is what we're declaring, and this is part of habit forming through what's called identity formation. So very key and crucial for us to be able to do that. Now, very quickly, I'm going to look at a recap of webinar 3 assignments, but I just want to hear from anyone here who did number 3 and 4. Who here did number 3 and 4? Or if you did one of them as well, let us know. Raise your hand. Okay, if nobody's raising the hand, that means people haven't done this. And this is really where the learning happens. So this is going to Nimisha, you've been muted?
I've done those. Yeah.
Okay, you did both?
I did both. Yeah.
Awesome. What was the protein snack that you made?
It was a chocolate chia pudding snack pot.
Okay.
Which consisted of chocolate whey protein powder, chia seeds for the fiber element, and a little bit of protein in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think did I put milk in there? I can't remember now, but yeah.
But you calculated in MFP how much it comes to, and you got at least 30 grams of protein and stayed below 25 grams of carbs?
Yes. I just posted it earlier, so I can double check that. But yes, I believe.
Awesome, Nimisha.
Yeah. It was about 9 grams of protein. I think you'd mentioned 10.
No, 30.
Sorry, fiber. Sorry, fiber is what I was talking about there. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what did I have?
Yeah, 9 grams of fiber is still okay, but how much protein did you get?
Yeah, I believe I got the 30 and just double checking that.
Awesome. So even if
here we go. Yeah, protein 30 grams.
Yeah.
Fiber 9 grams. And what was the other one you wanted?
Carbs should be under 25.
Yeah, so it was dead on 25.
All right.
Yeah.
Brilliant, Nimisha. Who here, and how was it? Was it, you find the experience hard? Was it easy? Did it require some planning before you put it all together?
It needed some planning, but FitnessPal made it easy because you can just type in different foods.
Yeah.
And, that's how I kind of came. I knew you wanted that sort of 30 grams protein. So it was either going to be,
Exactly. Who
far,
here would
yeah.
learn how to do what I want to call, macro building? Who would like to learn how to put together the building blocks of arriving at a meal and recipe that allows you and fits your macros? Who'd like to learn a bit about that? All right, you want to stay until the end because we've got something exciting that's coming up. And like I say, it's the first time we're doing this. It's a collab with another organization that we're going to be doing something, and it will be a separate event. We'll talk about that at the end, so stay on for that. But really well done, Nimisha. And anybody else that did it or has yet to do it, please do take a screenshot of the recipe, because you can go to MFP and you can click add recipe. You can add the ingredients and the weightings, and then it gives you the outcome. Now, if you arrive at an outcome by experimenting even before you cook it, I didn't want to give all this away, but I want us to start to think, how do you design a meal? And the reason I'm saying that is we're going to look at, especially with the festive period coming up, what can we do to prepare or create? In Nimisha's case, it was the chia pot. I didn't want to say this last time, but one foundational ingredient you can start off with is like a Greek yogurt, right? A Greek yogurt that is low fat, or a Greek yogurt that is low carb, especially. Then you start to add the other stuff because it already comes with an amount of that. Another good thing to start with when you're creating a dessert, yes, a dessert could be cottage cheese. It could be paneer. It could be a low-fat paneer, right? And we're used to having paneer a certain shape or format or texture or savory, but you could also use it to make a phenomenal dessert. So I'm just giving you some ideas, but you want to start to get creative. And we have a professional that's going to be coming along to show us how we can get creative with some of this. Now, it's a beautiful quote by Hippocrates, which is, exercise is medicine. A lot of us look at medicine as something that we consume through our mouth, some kind of food item, some kind of capsule, some kind of injection, some kind of drip as medicine. But exercise is medicine, is something that Hippocrates said, and we're really going to look at actually how beneficial it is. Now, as we go through this, we're in the 4th week of the program, and we've had people share their updates as at day 10. But next week we have our day 30 update, and you guys want to be pushing and playing all out till day 30. Specifically, if your goal is fat loss, you really want to be doing what's causing results for you. And if you haven't been doing stuff and you haven't got results, you shouldn't be surprised. But if you've been doing stuff and not getting results, then you need to start to really understand the design of snacks and meals, which is why we had that exercise in the last session as an assignment. But when you lose fat, or as you lose fat, and if you've lost fat and it feels like not so much, it's important to understand what it takes to lose, let's just say, a kg of fat, or what does it take to lose 10 of fat? In my case, I went through losing 32 of those in this period. Okay, I just want to check you guys can hear me, because I got a signal that internet wasn't stable.
Lost you for a second there, Ronnie.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to explain that it's important you understand, as you lose fat, what it takes to lose fat and what it takes to even lose a kg. But we're going to look at the calculation of losing 10 kg of fat. And just as a heads up, as you lost me, I'm today in a hotel which is having some power tripping been happening. But if that happens, you just got to wait a minute for me to rejoin. So if it does happen, I'll be back on. Now, 10 kg of fat, like I said, I lost 32 kg in my fat loss journey, and predominantly I lost fat while I also built muscle mass. We're going to look at today how muscle and the muscle volume and density we have actually supports the fat loss journey in terms of calorie burn. To lose 10 kg of fat, you need to inhale, add to your body, you need to inhale 29 kilos of oxygen. Now, of course, taking in that oxygen doesn't happen just like all in one day. You don't down it, but we're talking of cumulatively how much volume you inhale. And the more you exercise, the more cardiovascular activity you do, the more oxygen you'll be taking in. And we're going to look at what's called your VO2 max. And as you exercise or move or burn, you're going to release the oxygen combined with carbon molecules from the fat tissue. So your fat tissue has, those of you that want to refresh in your chemistry, C55H1O406, 06, which is 55 molecules of carbon, 104 of hydrogen, and 6 of oxygen. When combined in that ratio, they form adipose tissue. What we're doing is attaching the oxygen to the carbon, and they release as 55 molecules of CO2. And that you will be breathing out. You will be exhaling close to, from the 29 kg, with the 29 kg added on, you will be exhaling 28 kg of carbon dioxide. And of that 28 kg, 8.4 of that is contributing to your fat loss. Another 11 kilos is coming out as sweat. So 11 liters effectively of sweat is what your body needs to lose for you to lose 10 kg of body weight, right? So 1.6 kg will be going out as sweat from 10 kg of fat, and 8.4 kg will be coming out as your breath. You'll be breathing it out. So when you lose 1 kg, 2 kg, don't take that lightly, because it's required you to really inhale quite a lot of oxygen, be quite active in terms of moving, not add additional carb or carbon molecules to your body, right? That's one way to minimize the carbon that you're consuming being added to the oxygen you consume. You want your body to tap into the stored carbon molecules, which comes from your fat. So this is why it's important we understand a little bit of the maths, that to lose 10 kg of fat, we got to see 1.6 liters of sweat coming out of there. 1.6 will come out as sweat when we sweat out 11 kg of sweat. So 11 liters of sweat, this might happen over 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, right? That amount of sweat is coming from and releases 10 kg from our body. But what we should also understand about carbs and carbon is 250 grams of the carbs that we consume in a day can very easily convert into a kilo of body weight added to you. So you might be saying, hang on, today I've only eaten a meal with 250 grams, 500 grams, that's 750 grams. How come tomorrow morning I'm weighing 2 kg more? Well, because the food that you're having and the carbon from there added to the water that you also intake starts to attach and store within your body. And more so if there's glucose and there's sodium, i.e. salt. So if I have a 250-gram heavy carb meal and I have a liter of water, tomorrow I could easily be more than 1.25 kg in weight because of the additional oxygen molecules that combine and merge with that. I don't want to get too mathematical, but I'm just trying to explain here. And you don't need to memorize these formulas. I'm just really trying to explain here how, for you to understand how fat loss happens, you'll start to think twice about how we're adding it back to our body through the carb/carbon molecules that we're consuming in our body. Now, let's look at why really movement matters and what kinds of movements there are. Well, you want to choose what your long-term journey is. What is your longevity going to look like? Are you going to be something like image on the left or image on the right? But either way, VO2 max is something that we need to monitor. Your VO2 max is a measure and calculation of your body's ability and effectiveness of using oxygen. So the VO2 max is saying how quickly and how much and how effectively you're utilizing oxygen to give you energy. If you feel low in energy for most of the day, consider you might be having a low VO2 max. If you're feeling energetic for most of the day, it means your body is very efficient and effective at utilizing the oxygen it takes in to keep you energetic. Longevity. What does longevity mean? How long you're going to live is going to be associated with your level of fitness over your life. And longevity is also not just how long you live, but how long we live disease-free. Most cardiovascular diseases, cancers, respiratory diseases, blood pressure, high cholesterol levels, diabetes are, living with that is not a measure of your longevity. If you're living a good portion of years having to deal with and treat that, that's not really the longevity that we are looking for. And so you might have people that are living old and long, but you also want to look at that they might be still having some of these underlying conditions. The third thing to know about movement and why movement really matters is muscle. Your muscle mass, your muscle density, the more muscle your body has, and it's why we measure our body composition, the more kcal your body is burning just to maintain that muscle, the more calories your body is burning after a workout. So I'm going to say that again. It's not just an intense workout that burns more calories. It's an intense workout and the presence of higher muscle density that burns more calories. So you could do a great walk, you could do great HIIT, you could do a lot of what you think is contributing to fat loss, but there is more enhanced calorie burning if you also have a high presence of muscle density. That's because muscle is the most, what we want to call metabolically active tissue in the body. So the more muscle you build, the more muscles you're burning at rest. It's also why resistance training, it's not just important for building muscle or how you look, but it's also, if we do a good amount of resistance training in the day, it's during our rest hours and our sleep that the rest of the 23 hours after the 1 hour of intense lifting in the gym, the quality of the calorie burn and the contribution to our fitness is enhanced because of the resistance training that we're doing. I say this because some people think or focus more on just one or the other. Now, you might know, and you've already heard of terms like cardio and resistance training, etc. We'll look at those in a moment. But what is a healthy VO2 max? Now, you might ask, how can we measure this? You can go and do a lab test. So some of you that have maybe had some heart scare, you may have gone to a hospital and they did a stress test on a cardiovascular machine. Now, in addition to them checking your heart rate, they would also be checking, depending on if they included that, they would also be putting a mask on you to measure your oxygen rate, right? And so now today's wearable devices, our Apple Watch can show you your VO2 max. How many of you have checked your VO2 max on your phone? Anyone know? Anyone aware of that number? This is something new because we've not really focused so much on it in FITBANKER. So those of you that have done this before, this will be something new you're looking at. Why? Because you needed to sort of go aside and do a test, but now a good number of wearable gadgets are able to calculate it and give you an estimate of that. And to me, it was quite an eye-opener. I'd have loved to have the VO2 max of a 20-year-old or somebody in my 20s, between 42 to 46. But as somebody in my 40s, my VO2 max is in the 40s range, right? My fat percentage and all the rest for me is in the 20s, right, or 30 right now. So I've just realized I have to really improve my VO2 max. And I realized this as well as I've started this last week and a half, I've been doing CrossFit training. And CrossFit is a real test of your endurance, not just the amount you lift, right? So it really, really has been elevating my breath rate. For women, again, if you're in your 30s, 33 to 37, 40s, 31 to 35, if you're 50 plus, 28 to 33. It's a red flag, it's an amber flag. If you have an Apple Watch right now and you want to go under what's called cardiometrics there, or on the health app on your iPhone, there's a health app there, and there'll be a section called cardio fitness. If you look under cardio fitness, it will give you a range of where you are, whether you're high, above average, below average, or low. If any age is below 30, right, that's a little bit of a red flag, which means we've got work to do. How do you improve your VO2 max? You improve your VO2 max by doing more cardiovascular training. How do you do, and what quality of cardiovascular training do we do? We're going to look at that in a second. But before we do, I just want to remind you guys that next week you have a special session, an optional session, but equally very highly recommended session, featuring some rock star coaches that we have within our community. And I'd love for you to get a sense of how they were on a session just like this, like you, and they're going to be sharing their story going forward. But the week after that, we have a that I've just seen Prav's comment. We have a guest webinar, so you can screenshot this image. We'll also share it after this on the WhatsApp group, but this image can be forwarded to somebody as an invite. So you're inviting them to the session on 15th October and 22nd October. Note that those sessions start 30 minutes earlier. They start 30 minutes earlier to welcome and acknowledge your guests that you invite or family members that you invite to showing up. It's a free session for guests, but it includes your very detailed technical session. So this is not for you to miss. This is just saying 30 minutes before we welcome your guests to explain a little bit about FITBANKER and what they're joining. Then they get to sit in your webinar and get a sense of, hey, Nimisha, what's this thing that you've been doing? I've seen your skin is glowing of late and you're losing weight and you're a lot more bubbly and happy and energetic. And you can say, it's this thing called the FITBANKER Challenge. Come check it out. In fact, I'm going to forward this thing to you. And it's a great opportunity for us in our 30s, 40s, 50s to hit reset and to basically prioritize one thing that we say we value, which is our well-being. So you could share this as an invite to them. If you do have a guest, I recommend that you're also on from 6 p.m. But otherwise, your session, as normal, starts at 6:30. But you do want people to come on. They'll get to find out about the FITBANKER program. We will be talking about them joining the upcoming Thrive in 5 that's happening on November 3rd. And also we'll be talking about what they can join us next year. So the January program or anything else that we'll have next year. This also is another invite that you can screenshot and share with them. Again, the details are the same, but this talks a little bit about our mission and if they want to connect with us, they can also connect with us or look us up on Instagram. Okay, so we'll share these for you to forward on later. And as we shared earlier, one of the things that we look out for in this program in our community is leadership, and leaders inspire people into action. You could tell people about something, and if they show up, it's a demonstration of how effective your word is on people getting into motion, right? Taking action. Or you could tell people about it and just say, oh, I told people, but nobody showed up. That also is an indication of, hey, I need to get better at leadership. I'm a leadership training. I need to have a certain listening and command of authority and ability to empower a person into action, which is also why a big thing that we focus on is our leadership programs. Now, I said earlier about the types of exercise and activity. We've heard the terms of cardio or resistance training, but what does it mean? Cardio simply means, or is what we also know as aerobic exercise, and resistance is anaerobic. Now, aerobic simply means in the presence of oxygen, which means either oxygen is available locally where energy is being released, or oxygen is being supplied at a good and steady rate. So aerobic, there are 3 things for your aerobic exercise to be effective. 1, you elevate your heart rate. Number 2, you elevate energy or release stored energy that's stored in your fat cells normally as heat, and you release heat. And the third one is you're starting to breathe harder. If you achieve all these 3, not just one and not just 2 of them, but if you achieve all 3 through a workout, that's an effective workout, and you've triggered what we call thermogenesis. And we'll talk about what to read or look out for if you want to know whether you're triggering fat burn. When you're doing aerobic activity, many benefits. What you should know is blood is coursing through your veins, through your arteries, and the waste going out through your veins. You have nutrients flowing through, you have good blood flowing through. And if we have any blockages in our cardiovascular system, cardiovascular activity allows us to really flush this clean. Think about cardio as something you can sustain longer term. So think about Mo Farah, for those of you that follow long distance runners, which right now the Kenyan women are dominating. This is a 3K to 5K run where you keep going. And this is, think about Mo Farah, for those of you that I haven't seen him much in the news, but if you've been following the last couple Olympics, he's been acing it in the 5,000 meter distance. And think of cardio as anything that you can steadily run for longer than 2 minutes. Anaerobic is where you utilize energy for a very short and big demand burst of energy. And it's fueled by 2 sources of energy. One is called ATP, adenyl triphosphate, and the second one is called your lactic energy system. Think of this as Usain Bolt. He can give utmost peak energy for 10 seconds, maximum 20 seconds. In his case, 19.9 when he did the 200-meter sprint, right? But or it's you doing a set of 10 reps of bench press, or it's you doing 8 to 10 squats of really heavy weight, and you get pretty spent at the end of those number of reps. Now, anaerobic simply means you're able to fuel the exercise or the effort through a source of energy in the absence of oxygen. So oxygen has either not arrived there quick enough, or the oxygen has run out. And while you're waiting for the next supply of oxygen, there is a localized source of energy that it taps into, which is either ATP or lactic energy. Now, you don't need to, again, worry too much about that, because this is not something we're going to examine you. I just need you to understand how and why your body needs to develop and get better at generating short, quick bursts of energy on demand. And I'm just trying to explain to you that you have, think of them as power stations attached to your cells. There's localized energy stored there attached to our fat cells. Later, when we talk of something like creatine monohydrate builds in your body what's called creatine phosphate. And creatine phosphate is what stores and adds to your ATP or adenotriphosphate, right? Just think of that as local power stations attached to your body. Now, aerobic, what kind of aerobic can you do? There's HIIT and there's LIS. LIS is low intensity steady state, which means it's sustainable. You can keep it going for an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, walking, jogging, running. Again, cycling, again, depends on your pace. That may not be the same exactly, say, for spin class, which might be a bit more intense. Swimming, again, at a steady pace. Yoga, if it's a little bit of quick flow yoga, maybe Tai Chi, is what you could count under LIS. HIIT would be quick, lightweight with weights or body weight. And what's a good number of hits to be doing per week? Maybe 1 to 2 sessions per week. When it comes to cardio or some of the lists, but where we have a slightly elevated intensity that takes us into what's called zone 2 of our heart rate, is actually where we can have sustained fat loss. Now, it's not the only fat loss, so you can have sustained fat loss. So zone 2 for fat loss is calculating what's called your 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. And that you want to be doing that at least 2 to 3 times per week, but it can be done daily. It can be done daily for those of us that really want to do that. For those of you that really want to test and push your cardiovascular system, you want to be pushing for between 70 to 90% to trigger what's called EPOC, excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption. For any of you that have worked out and you reach a certain point of intensity where you're getting a headache, if you sit down, you get a headache. After the workout, you're feeling lightheaded, you've likely triggered EPOC. If you've ever gone for a class of Orange Theory is designed on knowing the science to say our role is to trigger EPOC. Barry's boot camp, F45, some CrossFit sessions, the WOD part of the CrossFit session is designed all to trigger EPOC, right? And if you do my workouts that we do, the strength and conditioning ones, we don't always tap into EPOC. Although for some people, the level of intensity, and if I reduce the rest time, and if we increase the intensity and we introduce burpees, sometimes some of you might trigger EPOC. But those ones are more focused on strength and conditioning. If you do Amy's workout, the HIIT workout, again, you'd likely trigger EPOC. So important for us to understand. For those of you that want to focus on fat loss, what's important? The 7 C's to fat loss. 1 is cardio, effective cardio. Number 2 is carb control. So carb control, keep your carb intake a little bit of a made-up number, but keep it below 90% of your body weight in kg, but in grams. So if your body weight is 80, try to keep it below 72 grams per day. Okay, that's a good way to control your carbs, right? There are many of us here, if you have not paused to check your MyFitnessPal and review it, you would be 60 kg, 65 kg, and easily consuming 150 grams of carbs a day. That won't be helping you. If you're 65 kg, you need to be about 58, 59, maximum 60 grams of carbs. And then a calorie deficit, and the 4th C, obviously, being consistently. Now, those are 4 C's. Then you might be asking, what is the other 3? Well, the other 3 is we're often not honoring the other 3 because many of our lifestyles and our waking hours and the natures of our job, which are not a match to our Swabhava and our Swadharma, we will be operating in a state of stress. So the three other C's are being cool, calm, and collected. So having mindfulness practices, having good sleep, working on breath work allows us to activate the other three. I say this because there are people that nail their cardio, they do their carb control, they're constantly having a calorie deficit, and they're like, Ronnie, but my body's not that. They've been doing this so constant for such a long time that it's now stressful, it's unenjoyable. And the more they look in the mirror and they say, I'm not losing this extra love handles, I'm not losing this fat here, I'm not losing this, that, there, the more they stress around things like body image, they're definitely not cool, calm, and collected. The more they have anxiety about having to push their body physically and emotionally and mentally, the more unenjoyable it is, the less cool, calm, and collected they are. So it's very important that we learn how to strike this balance, and we also learn how to ensure our workouts aren't causing the physical nor emotional and mental strain. So very important for us to understand that and to get effective cardio. Now we're talking about zone 2. What is zone 2? Zone 2 is 60 to 70% of your max heart rate. That's where we are in the zone 2 range. Okay, it's building in your body what's called an aerobic base. We need a certain aerobic base, which is kind of, think of it as the foundation of fitness. If you don't have a good aerobic base, whatever we're doing over and above will impact things like our recovery, our injury. Maybe sometimes you'll find some people push excessively and they might feel very lightheaded or even faint, right? That's because they haven't built the engine capacity. Think of your engine capacity as, those of you that understand automobile mechanics, the size of that engine. The bigger that engine, the more load it can sustain. The smaller the engine, it will reach its capacity too quickly, and it just cannot do any more revs per minute or any more combustion because its size just doesn't allow for that to do. Zone 2 is great for fat burning, and it's great for fat burning at a sustainable level. What do you mean by sustainable? Is it works for longer hours in the day, but it works for many days together. Now, you could go into zone 3 training, right, which is 70 to 80 or 90% of your heart rate. That will help on that day with fat loss. But what happens is if people are doing that every day, they'll reach a point of fatigue and burnout. Secondly, it may also lead to overcompensation. So you're doing every day an intense CrossFit, and this is actually one of the common errors that reverses people's progress. Because their workouts are too intense, they feel too fatigued, they feel too tired, they tend to over-reward with the meal or with treats because they're feeling the pain, but it's not really as much more as had they done a more moderate-paced, longer distance zone 2 training. So for zone 2, recommend 2 to 3 sessions per week, but you could do this daily. You can do zone 2 training daily. This could be Stairmaster, this could be a light jog, this could be walking, this could be walking uphill, this could be walking with ankle weights, this could be walking with a weighted jacket. And you have to do what's called the talk test. Now, you need to check if you have a wearable device that you're between 60 to 70, right? So my 60 to 70 number is about 108 to 120, sorry, 111 to 108 to about 126. I need to be in that range, 108 to 126. But if you are, and calculate yours based on your age, right? The talk test is you're going at a pace where if I asked you to sing, you can't sing. But if you can speak and hold a conversation, you can speak and hold a conversation. And I know in my very early days of going for runs with people a lot more fitter than me, which is one of the best ways to get fit, they'd be talking and chatting like, what on earth is this guy smoking? How are they able to speak? And they're killing me. I'm like killing myself just to keep up with the guy. And they're just having a normal conversation. That was clearly an indication of my VO2 max was low. I hadn't been used to doing zone 2 training, but nowadays I definitely can sustain that level. And also HIIT contributes to fat loss, but it's not sustainable every day. So one of the issues is obviously burnout and injury. But it's a great way for a short, sharp, quick burst of energy. If you're an ectomorph, right? If you're an ectomorph and you have a high metabolism, you can get away with 10-minute, 15-minute, 20-minute, very quick burst workouts. Those of you in Kenya might know of a class that's run. It's a 30-minute session called Upesi that includes the warm-up and the cool-down, but the actual workout time is about 21 to 24 minutes, right? Spin class also can be designed to, or most of them are designed to be a HIIT workout. F45 Barry's Bootcamp, or you can design your own, which I'll share in the next slide. Now, HIIT is doing about 30-second sprint and 90-second rest, or 60-second rest, or even a 30-second rest would be a good HIIT workout. If you did 8 rounds of that, that would be effectively mimicking a HIIT workout. I say that today because that's what we did today. We were doing 30 seconds of just doing burpees, then a 30-second rest, then 30 seconds of an assault bike for pushing for distance, and exactly 30 seconds you stop, you rest 30 seconds, and 30 seconds of burpees. So, the first 30 seconds I could do 9 burpees. By the time I got to the end, I was doing 6 burpees in 30 seconds, right? 6 to 7 burpees in 30 seconds. But it's telling me something about my VO2 max. And as I raise my VO2 max, I could keep up 8 burpees in every 30 seconds. So you want to find out what yours is. How do you measure intensity? Well, if I was with you in person, if I see Komal walking on a treadmill at an incline, I'll be asking Komal and say, Komal, how easy is this? And she goes, oh, Ron, it's a piece of cake. I can do this till tomorrow. I won't get tired. That's like an easy 1 or 2. That's really not helping her. It's wasting time and electricity if that's a electric treadmill. But if she says this is a 4, 5, or a 6, I can do it sustainable. I know she can do up to about 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. And then she probably need to come off for rest, stretch, water break, etc. That is moderate intensity. If she says, if you can see she's breathless, she can't speak, she's breaking sweat, she'd be a 9 or a 10. That's close to dead or dying. She can do 15 to 20 seconds of that max before she has to switch off, right? That's again not sustainable. So what we want to be is to oscillate between a 5 or 6, so 60% of max heart rate, going up to a 7, 8, or a 9. So, or an 8 or a 9 ideally. So between 5, 6, 7, going up to 8, 9, 5, 6, 7, going up to 8, 9. That's how you design a HIIT workout. Now, again, what is your max heart rate? 220 minus your age. When I was 40, that was 180. And if you're 40 years old, your fat burning zone, you're 60 to 70%. So the 70% number is 126. So you need to remember in your mind the 60 and 70 range, right? Or aim for the top one, which is the 70%. This is an image of, the first 2.5 to 3 minutes. This light green gray block is a warm-up phase. Then for 30 seconds, you push a sprint. You could do this on a walk. You can make your walk and a run into a HIIT workout. You could sprint for 30 seconds, your fastest pace for 30 seconds. Then you pause and just walk casually for 90 seconds. Then you sprint for 30 seconds. You walk slowly, moderately paced for 90 seconds. Sprint, and you do 6 or 7 such rounds. That too is a great way to trigger fat loss. And at the end of it, you would trigger EPOC, which is excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption. So when you're going for a morning walk, try to do 6 to 7 sprints or 8 sprints of 30 seconds each. Try to keep the rest time between them not too long. Some people wait 3 minutes, which is not ideal. Try to not go more than 90 seconds of that rest time. So you could be doing an hour's walk every day. I'm asking you to take about 10 to 12 minutes of those in doing a HIIT cycle, or 10 to 15 minutes of those in doing a HIIT cycle. Now let's look at the other type of training, which is resistance training. The single biggest mistake that most beginners make, says Dorian Yates, is putting 100% of their effort into the concentric part of the rep while paying no attention to the negative eccentric segment. Who here, who hasn't done FITBANKER before, knows what concentric and eccentric means? Komal says no. Mukesh, you know this, right? Bethany, you familiar with this? Mukesh,
I am not. I'm not. School me.
All right. Who knows what concentric and eccentric part of a workout or a rep is?
Is it something to do with your muscle movement? Like, so rather than rushing, it's important when you lift and when you lower your muscles because the impact.
Yeah, so I'll demo kind of what you're saying, but think of this as me doing a bicep curl.
Yeah.
There's a part of the movement where I come in and I contract and shorten the length of my bicep, and it gets thicker in terms of width or girth, and then there's me releasing it. Now, what Dorian Yates is saying is that most people focus on this part, and then they just drop.
Yeah.
They don't focus on that. That part of releasing is called the eccentric part, and that's actually where most of the magic happens. I'm going to just very quickly show you so we don't skip this. Concentric here is where we're curling in the bicep curl. And why, I need you to remember this like a mantra, write it down if you want to as well. But those of you that use momentum in your exercise or gravity in an exercise rep means you're not using muscle. So I used to say that the nemesis of muscle building is gravity and momentum. But there are points where you need gravity and momentum when you're doing something competitive, when you're doing a sport, when you're doing a race, when you're training for time, you will use gravity and momentum, right? You need momentum in sport. If we're throwing a ball, it's not all muscle, part of it is momentum. So whether we're bowling or whether we're throwing something or whether we're swinging a bat, there's an element of momentum that brings the power to it. But that's not the most effective way to build muscle. If you want to build muscle, use muscle and have less dependency on using momentum and gravity. So concentric part is important, but using bodybuilders' language, importanter than that is eccentric. All right. So more important than the concentric is eccentric. Isometric is about holding a posture and a pose. Who can think of some form of isometric contraction that we do regularly or in our workouts? Pre has put it in the answer. It says planks. Planking, wall sits, yoga, hatha yoga postures, holding the posture is isometric. So most of yoga is based on isometric contraction, especially with the hold poses or postures. It also engages more of what we call the interior muscle, internal muscle. We have tiers of muscles. Yoga engages more internal muscle. And you might see and say, hey, I know certain people who do yoga and they're very strong. They can plank for, we used to have plank challenges at our expos. And we had a couple of yoga instructors who come and do 16-minute planks, 9-minute planks, 12-minute planks, 20-minute planks. And, you lift up the shirt and they don't have a six-pack and they don't looking buff and they're not chiseled, which is fine, but they only have internal muscle. Isolated training works also on the exterior muscle. So you need both. Again, it's not like one's better than the other. You need both to really develop good muscle density. Now, anaerobic and building the muscle types of resistance training, it could be weight-based. So what you have, the training plans that have been sent to you, isolated muscle training, those are your training programs. They're using weights that trigger what we call the 9 principles of fitness. Powerlifting, CrossFit, yoga, some of them that you hold long poses, strength and conditioning classes like the ones I run on Mondays and Thursdays, calisthenics are all examples of resistance training. At least 4 a week means out of 7 days, you've won a majority of the week. Now, that's why we say 4, 7, 4, 7. Because if you did 3 resistance training workouts a week, you have 4 days of not doing resistance training. Across 365 days in the year, you'd have had more days of not engaging your muscle than engaging your muscle. So we really want you to engage your muscle for a simple majority of the week. At least more than 50% of the year, you should be engaging your muscle for more than 50% of the days in a year. A simple way to achieve that, just aim for 4 days of workouts minimum and up to 6 a week. I want to very quickly show you when we're working out, there are different muscles in terms of functionality or exercises. One is called push muscles. So whether you're pushing a sledge, whether you're pushing a bench press, whether you're pushing a bar down like a tricep press down, all of these are called push muscle exercises. Okay, so your workout should also have push exercises, but it should also have for your functionality in the world, pull muscle. Pull muscle it's good to combine your pull muscle workouts together and good to combine your push muscle workouts. Now, if you see the PDF plan that you guys have been sent for a workout, you have chest and triceps combined. That's because they're both push muscle groups. You have back and biceps combined. That's because they are pull muscle groups. So if you go into the particular in a gym and you are doing a lat pull down or you're doing seated cable rows, you're already using a little bit of your biceps. So to finish your back workout by adding a bicep workout to it, which you've already warmed up and activated anyway with the back workout, is a much smarter way to focus on those groups of muscles than to do it another day, right? So the whole purpose of effective design of workouts is to combine push with pull, right? Push muscles together and pull muscles on a separate day, right? And again, you can look at separating by body parts. So the bicep curls and back workout you could combine, but working on your glutes, your butt muscles, your hamstrings, you could have those on a separate day. You could have your leg muscles worked out on a separate day. Now I'm going to very quickly play an educational TED talk. I want us to listen in and we're going to take a look at some of the underlying principles of fitness. Screen. Can you all see my screen? 1 second, guys. Okay, so let's pay attention, and I'll explain a little bit about this after that. So just listen in to what's required to build muscle.
We have over 600 of them. They make up between 1/3 and 1/2 of our body weight. And along with connective tissue, they bind us together, hold us up, and help us move. And whether or not bodybuilding is your hobby, muscles need your constant attention because the way you treat them on a daily basis determines whether they will wither or grow. Say you're standing in front of a door, ready to pull it open. Your brain and muscles are perfectly poised to help you achieve this goal. First, your brain sends a signal to motor neurons inside your arm. When they receive this message, they fire, causing muscles to contract and relax, which pull on the bones in your arm and generate the needed movement. The bigger the challenge becomes, the bigger the brain's signal grows, and the more motor units it rallies to help you achieve your task. But what if the door is made of solid iron? At this point, your arm muscles alone won't be able to generate enough tension to pull it open, so your brain appeals to other muscles for help. You plant your feet, tighten your belly, and tense your back, generating enough force to yank it open. Your nervous system has just leveraged the resources you already have, other muscles, to meet the demand. While all this is happening, your muscle fibers undergo another kind of cellular change. As you expose them to stress, they experience microscopic damage, which in this context is a good thing. In response, the injured cells release inflammatory molecules called cytokines that activate the immune system to repair the injury. This is when the muscle-building magic happens. The greater the damage to the muscle tissue, the more your body will need to repair itself. The resulting cycle of damage and repair eventually makes muscles bigger and stronger as they adapt to progressively greater demands. Since our bodies have already adapted to most everyday activities, those generally don't produce enough stress to stimulate new muscle growth. So to build new muscle, a process called hypertrophy, our cells need to be exposed to higher workloads than they are used to. In fact, if you don't continuously expose your muscles to some resistance, they will shrink, a process known as muscular atrophy. In contrast, exposing the muscle to a high degree of tension, especially while the muscle is lengthening, also called an eccentric contraction, generates effective conditions for new growth. However, muscles rely on more than just activity to grow. Without proper nutrition, hormones, and rest, your body would never be able to repair damaged muscle fibers. Protein in our diet preserves muscle mass by providing the building blocks for new tissue in the form of amino acids. Adequate protein intake, along with naturally occurring hormones like insulin-like growth factor and testosterone, help shift the body into a state where tissue is repaired and grown. This vital repair process mainly occurs when we're resting, especially at night while sleeping. Gender and age affect this repair mechanism, which is why young men with more testosterone have a leg up in the muscle building game. Genetic factors also play a role in one's ability to grow muscle. Some people have more robust immune reactions to muscle damage and are better able to repair and replace damaged muscle fibers, increasing their muscle building potential. The body responds to the demands you place on it. If you tear your muscles up, eat right, rest, and repeat, you'll create the conditions to make your muscles as big and strong as possible. It is with muscles as it is with life. Meaningful growth requires challenge and stress.
Awesome. So that is a quick look at understanding a little bit about how muscles work and understanding what do we need to achieve to grow muscles. So it covered a lot of data, but I want to flag a few things we need to do. We need to be able to lift a load that is not a walk in the park, that challenges the muscle to create micro tears. So when people say you go into the gym and you create a muscle tissue tear, we're talking about what are called very micro nano tears. And these micro tears only get repaired by amino acids, and amino acids is the building blocks that are found inside of protein. So when we need to nail our protein, think of it as you have a sore, protein builds it, but it makes it bigger than it originally was. That's kind of what happens to muscle. That's how it grows. The growth only happens from a tear, a step back in size, and then it grows. So we need to nail our protein that follows us creating the muscle tissue tear. Now, the 9 principles of fitness. The first one is overload principle. If you're lifting a weight, and if you do any live workouts with me, I'll ask you if your weight is too light and you can do 20 to 30 reps, it's really too light. It's not challenging. It should challenge you such that somewhere between 10 to 15, maximum 20 reps, you're getting fatigued, right? At least for the first round. By the time you get to the third or fourth round, around 10 to 12 reps should be the max you're reaching. Progressive principle means over time, you can't stick to the same weights. You've got to increase the resistance by increasing the load. So if I started off by bench pressing 60 kg, I can't keep doing 60 kg if I'm regularly working out in the gym. And I have to at some point increase it to 63, 64, 65, 68, 70 kg. You know, today I'm able to bench press over 100 kg, right? But I'm able to do that because I've constantly challenged my muscles to be lifting something more, initially even fewer reps of a heavier weight, and over time as I build my muscle, it can then lift more reps or up to 10 reps of that same heavier weight. Specificity. If you're training for a marathon, you should do marathon training. For those of you that are training for Kilimanjaro and you're joining us next year, you should be doing hikes. Your muscles respond to what you're specifically subjected to. If you're going to just be playing badminton, but you're training for Kilimanjaro, you know, you're not really applying the right sort of training to the feat that lay ahead. So learn to bring specificity to the muscles you want to develop. That's what you've got to work on. If you want to get good at basketball or jumping high, you're going to work on building your calf muscles. You're going to work on building your quads, right? For you being able to get a good jump in. But if you're just working your upper body, working your shoulders and working your bench press, you're not necessarily going to be improving your jump height. So really work on understand specificity. Reversibility, fitness can't be stored. So I can't, you know, for 3 weeks, I've been out here in India, two and a half weeks. And when I left Zambia, if I was, you know, whatever I pushed up to, 80, 90, 100 kg of bench press, I can't expect that right now, if I don't train, I'll be able to walk to the gym and lift the same. It starts to depreciate. My fitness will start to devalue if I'm not engaging my muscle. So it's a great thing I've been able to do in the last 8 days. I've got 5 workouts in, really good, solid 5 workouts, about 4 or 5 CrossFit sessions and another traditional gym session. Otherwise, reversibility principle will have its way. It's going to start to regress the progress that I've made. And that's why it's very important. I literally choose hotels and places that I go to based on proximity to a gym, right? So I look at hotels, I look at a gym nearby, or I look if there's a good gym in the hotel before I go and book a particular place. Adaptability. Variety is the flavor of the day. Sometimes you use body weight, sometimes you use resistance machines, sometimes you use free weights. Individuality, right? You want to create a plan that matches what you're training for. So if you're training for Kilimanjaro, we give you a plan to say, hey, this is what you got to walk every day. Once every 2 weeks, you do about a 10-kilometer walk, right? 5-kilometer walks every day. Every 2 weeks, go for a 10-kilometer walk. In the last 3 months, aim for 15 and 20-kilometer hike with a good incline, right? That's what you need to train. It's a walking hike. Kilimanjaro is not a technical mountain, right? So you want to create a plan that matches your goals. If you're training for a marathon, those of you that have run marathons, we slowly build up distance. We work on certain short runs, specifically 3-kilometer runs to keep up a certain pace, 3 kilometer. Then we'll go for a long distance one. Then we'll come back down to short runs and improving the pace. Then we'll go for a long distance one. Then we'll slowly be building up the long distance runs in distance right up to the week before we go for the full marathon. And then we have a couple of rest days, and then we go for the full marathon. Plateau is something that happens if we don't, we're not seeing any more results. We're pushing, we're going regular to the gym, we're working out, but nothing is shifting. We've flatlined. That's a plateau. How do you break plateau? You break plateau with FITT EVP. FITT is alter the frequency of your training, right? So if you're doing it, 4 times a day, go for 5, go for 6. If you're doing 6, you can even reduce it to 4 to break plateau. So alter frequency, alter intensity, right? So how intense are you doing it? Intensity is one of 2 things, either the pace of each rep or the weight that you're lifting. To go more intense, you lift heavier or you move faster. That's how you alter intensity. T, the first T is timing. So by timing, it could be, hey, I'm doing 1.5 hour workouts. Can I complete all of that in 60 minutes? You would have to move a bit faster and reduce your rest time to nail that, but it's a great way to break plateau. Or you're always doing 45-minute intense workouts. Try doing an hour and a half. So it's not always more, guys. It's about varying, sometimes reducing what we're doing. Or it could be the timing, which is I always go in the evenings and you've hit plateau. Another way to break plateau is start to do morning workouts. So the timing of the day is also varying the timing. The second T is type. I shared that earlier in point number 5, adaptability. You could do body weight workouts. You could do resistance training workouts. You could do free weights. You could go for a class like CrossFit. You could go for an athletics-based type of workout or circuit training. That's the type, varying the type of training. And to break plateau, you want to do something new for a week, at least a week, 7 days, or 4-5 days out of a 7-day calendar week, or even up to 2 weeks, and then return back to your regular regime. Your muscles, they get so used to what you're presenting them with that they no longer feel like a challenge or a load. And then EVP, E is the enjoyment factor there. So having figured this out, nowadays you have classes where there are leaderboards, there are medals, there are awards, there's, you being acknowledged for your personal best, you unlocking a new level. That's an enjoyment factor. There's a competitive element to it. There's a pat on the back. There's a treat. There's a community feel with studios. That's really the power of community. V is working on the volume, right? Working on the volume of what you're training. So sometimes we would go and do 100 rep routine. In fact, not just sometimes, it's going to come in your inbox in a day or 2. Next week, we're going to aim for one exercise doing 100 reps. Now you might think, how can I do 100 reps of that? Well, you break it down into 4 sets. The first set, you'll do 40 reps of a very light weight. Then you slowly increase the weight and you'll do 30 reps, increase the weight a bit more, you'll do 20 reps, and then you go to your heaviest weight and you do 10 reps. That's how you play with volume. So sometimes I could do 40 push-ups, followed by 30 dumbbell presses, followed by 20 heavier dumbbells, and followed by 10 very heavy bench press. That would be 100 reps of working on my chest, one exercise, right? And it's a great way to use volume to break plateau. And the P is there should be some form of performance measure, right? So if you're doing a 5K run, right? You have a 5K run time, 34 minutes. You plan to shut that down to 32 minutes or 33 minutes. That itself we can't manage what we can't measure. So there should be some form of us being able to monitor and track performance, how we're performing. So an element of seeing progress or progression in our performance. So that's what the P stands for. And the last thing of the 9 principles of fitness is regression. After illness, after injury, some of us saw this when we got COVID, if we did, we couldn't start off from where we left off. You need to ensure that you come back at 60% of where you left off and slowly start to build it back up to where we were at our peak. Now, in terms of resistance training, there are 2 types of trainings out there in the gym or classes that you go to. One focuses on strength. Now, why am I defining this for you? I'm defining this for you because you might go to a gym and you might get confused when you see a lot of big people lifting deadlifts and grunting and dropping the weights, and you're like, hang on, these guys aren't following what Ronnie said, that we need to slowly lower them down with the eccentric part. Why are they lifting the weight as a dumbbell and they just drop it to the floor and making noise and grunting about it? What they're doing is strength training. Their goal is to continually work on saying, can I lift more? Can I lift more? Can I lift more? That's great if you're participating in something competitively. But exercises like deadlifts and squats, the risk reward ratio isn't great, which means there's a greater element of risk of injury in strength training, and the reward is minimal if you're not doing it competitively. It's still a great thing to do, and strength training is something that contributes to good, happy, healthy hormones like human growth hormone in our body, growth hormone, and testosterone. And strength training is normally where we're training at 85% or more of what's called our 1 rep max. So the other day I was doing heavy deadlifts. I was pushing up to about 125. My 1 rep max maybe for a deadlift could be 130, 140. But 85% of that number is the range between 85 and up to 1 RM is where I'd be training to build my strength, right? So that's what we want to be looking at. Volume, 5 reps we were doing, 3 reps, 1 rep, 5, 3, 1, 5, 3, 1, that's what we're doing. So you don't need to go really crazy on the number of reps. In fact, it should be a struggle to go over 6 reps. That will allow you to build strength training. How much protein do you need, whether you're doing strength training or hypertrophy? Your body still needs and can absorb up to the max of the protein range we're giving you. So if you're a female, 1 to 1.5 grams per kg of body weight. If you're a female here that weighs 57 kg, you should be consuming between 57 and up to about 85 grams of protein a day. 57 to 85 is your range if you weigh 57 kg. But if you're a 57 kg male, you should be consuming between 85 and 114 grams of protein, 1.5 to 2 grams of protein. So the upper limits is what we've given here, 1.5 and 2 grams per kg of body weight for males. With strength training, you will rest 2.5, 3 minutes, even up to 5 minutes of interset rest. Whereas hypertrophy is, it could be 45 seconds, 60 seconds, maximum 90 seconds, and you're going in for the next one. Hypertrophy, we might have more reps, between 8 and the first few sets could be a warm-up. You'll be doing about 20 reps. How often do you want to train for hypertrophy, to trigger hypertrophy, which is what we saw in that video, creating the micro tissue tears? At least 4 times a week, right? So greater than 3 sessions a week. And if you want to build a specific muscle, aim for working on that muscle 2 or 3 times a week, at least 2. So if you specifically have a goal to increase, say, your thigh size or your quads or your chest size, and that's a muscle that you really want to focus on. Now, you might not want to do that for every muscle in your body, but there are specific, what we want to call show muscles, like I want big shoulders, I want a big chest, I want a big booty. You want to work that one at least twice a week and up to 3 times a week. So if you're doing it only once a week, you have too much rest period that kind of takes you a bit back, and it's like you're taking 1 step forward but 2 steps back. But if you work out twice a week, you're doing 2 steps forward, 1 step back with your recovery, and you're on the net moving forward or progressing towards your goals. Now, high level, this is what we've covered today, everything that I need you to know that's very important for today's session: cardio and strength training. Very high level, I'm just going to introduce you to nutrition, which we will look more at next week, and we're going to look more at debunking certain myths about nutrition next week. But when you hear people doing this diet and that diet, and people ask you as you invite them, oh, are you doing keto? Are you doing paleo? Are you doing this? There are a lot of terms you'll hear out there. What I want you to know is it doesn't matter what the label on the outside is. Inside each of these plates, if they claim to be healthy and contribute to improving your body composition, so if people ask if you're doing a diet, you're not doing a diet. Okay, diet actually comes from the word dietra, which is to be, which is a way of being, which means how is your whole lifestyle? Who are you being on a daily basis? That's where the word diet comes from, which means it includes your movements, your thoughts, your relationships, which are the 6 pillars we work on. So if anyone asks you what diet are you doing, you can tell them it's a lifestyle diet. You're working on 6 pillars of your lifestyle. And if they claim to be healthy, they will all create a calorie deficit if their goal is fat loss. They will all lean towards higher protein. They will all have low sugar. Unless you have an issue with your kidneys, there isn't a single health diet that's asking you to avoid protein. Right? Now, protein does not cause, not to be mixed with what I just said, protein does not cause kidney issues. But if you have kidney issues for any other reason, protein can be an additional strain on the kidneys. But don't mix cause from the effect. Right? The protein does not cause the kidneys to be an issue, but you could have kidney issues genetically or some other cause, and protein would be an additional strain on the kidneys that we would want to avoid. So most diets will lean towards a higher protein, unless for medical, specifically kidney reasons, you're told to avoid high protein. Most will have low sugar. There is no diet I've heard of that is a high sugar diet that works and improves any human being in any sense or shape or form. If any of you have discovered one such diet out there, let me know. And if it contributes to your health. Most of them will lean towards consuming more complex and low glycemic index carbs and less processed foods and less preservatives or what we call foreign non-food items in the food. And there will be an element of understanding timing and accountability. So tracking, you can't manage what you can't measure. If you're not recording what you're consuming, how do you know what difference it's making to you or not? So this is why we recommend that. Now, we're going to very quickly introduce you to intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting, a very foundational level of intermittent fasting is, can you allow your digestive system to rest for about 14 to 16 hours a day? Now, intermittent fasting says, can you use your consumption of food in an 8-hour window? So this is an image which shows somebody's eating windows from 1 p.m. up to 9 p.m. at night. Then from 9 p.m. till 13 hours, till 1 p.m. the following day, right? They're not consuming calorific food. That's called a 16-8 diet. Now, intermittent fasting, you might want to think of it as a fancy word that has become very popularized of late, but we've kind of had these in a lot of religious and spiritual practices for eons, some form of fasting. Some people will fast for 8 days straight, some people will fast 1 day a week, some people will fast for Lent for 40 days, some people will fast for the month of Ramadan. They all stem from some element of spiritual practice, sacrifice, mind control, betterment of yourself, and also discovering something that we say in our mantra called the human body is an amazing thing. Where we get so conditioned and dependent thinking we constantly need this fuel, that's just more satiety of the tongue. But actually, the human body is an amazing thing. One of the best things you can be doing to you health-wise is starting to regularly implement intermittent fasting. Now, regularly could be every day you do 16-8. But for some people, fasting could be 1 day a week you aren't having anything, right? So on a Sunday night, as an example, you have your last meal. The whole of Monday you eat nothing, but you still work and work out as usual. So you'll have liquids for sure, 0-calorie stuff. And then your next calorific meal might be on a Tuesday morning. That's also one way of doing intermittent fasting. Some people do 3 days at a go out of every 7 days, and some people do 7-day fast out of the whole month. So they do 7 days of only water, and then for 3 plus weeks of the remainder of the month, they'll be having calorific food. Now, I'm not asking you to do the latter, but we're going to invite you to try out 16-8 on a daily basis. So 8 hours, you're kind of eating within your calorie and macro allowance. And if you find that hard, at least do 14-10. fall back on 14:10, but don't start off planning for 14:10. Aim for 16:8. What you can consume during your fasting, you can have 0-calorie drinks, you can have teas, you can have coffees without the milk and sugar. You can have, even sodas that are sugar-free. They still will count towards your intermittent fasting. So if you need some sense of flavor or taste, you could have a sugar-free energy drink. You could have a sugar-free Coke. You could have a sugar-free, tonic water, anything, but it should be sugar-free. Now, worst case scenario, if you're really struggling, these next two, veggie-based and protein shakes, are really, if the going gets tough and you can't be tougher than it, right? If you must break your fast, then don't go for a cheesecake. Don't go for a banoffee cake. Don't go for that blueberry muffin. Go for a veg-based smoothie, which means no fruit, just vegetables. Blend them. If it's cold, you can call it a smoothie, and if it's warm, you can call it a soup. But that's basically what you want to have. And then you can have protein shakes, which is just protein and water in your blender. No milk, no other things, and it makes sure it's a high quality isolate. So at least 80% protein, high protein, low carb. You can have one of those in your fasting window if you're really struggling and low for energy and you worked out intensely and you need something to pick you up. Those two are what I want to call the mid-range exceptions. But if your focus is fat loss, go for strict intermittent fasting. Now, we've heard about keto, which was there on the earlier slide, but what exactly is keto? Keto basically says that the baseline of our food should be predominantly fats and high protein foods, then vegetables, and then last least is anything that has carbs or starch. So keto works well with intermittent fasting. One of the challenges I find with people who've taken on keto is that they become very carb sensitive. And when they come off keto and they reintroduce carbohydrates, their body goes through havoc of creating a big blood sugar spike, insulin resistance, and they very quickly start to pile on weight. So keto works if you can sustain it with intermittent fasting and really sustain it long term. I know people who are doing keto where they had a 2-hour eating window and a 4-hour eating window. They've been doing this for years, which means they only eat for 2 hours of the day or 4 hours of the day. They eat a lot of high-fat foods. And one of the problems, again, with keto is people think if you can eat fat foods like cheese, they start to eat all kinds of junk. They start to have fries, they start to have fried crisps, they start to have fried this, fried that, thinking, oh, that's keto, you can have it. It's not. If it's crisps, it's predominantly got a lot of carbs in it. If it's, Indian fried snacks, got a lot of carbs in it. So it's going to pop your ketosis. It's not going to work. And keto was designed actually for kids that were that had what was it? Was it sickle cell or epileptic? And they found that keto really reduced the amount of seizures. That was the discovery of keto. And then they realized it had other benefits like our brain alertness, and it also contributed to fat loss. So that's how keto got a bit more introduced mainstream. How does ketosis work? Traditional diet, you have carbs, it goes into storage as glycogen. You tap into the glycogen, it gives you energy. Keto, you don't provide your body with glucose. You eat good fats like avocado. Your body then needs energy, so now it's going to fat as a source of energy. It breaks down fat, goes to the liver, releases stored energy from the fat. Every gram, I know you guys all got this right in the last one, every gram of fat is how many calories? Someone tell me. Who's put it in the chat?
Is it 4? I'm driving.
Coach Arthi says 9. Bethany, what did you say? Did you say is it 4?
Yeah, I remember one of them was 4, but I think it is 9. You said fat, right?
Yeah, fat is 9. Carbs are only 4. So that's why keto is popular. You can feel very energetic with this. You get 2.25 times more energy if you tap into your stored fat or you're consuming fat and you're not providing your body with carbs. But think of the way your body gets energy. It's like a pecking order. If you do provide it with carbs, it'll go to the carbs first. But you'll need more carbs to get that amount of energy because it's only giving you 4 calories per gram. If you had good fats and within your budget, you'll get 9 calories of energy from consumed fat or stored fat. So that's what's another reason why ketosis is popular. Now we're going to wrap up. We're close to wrapping up, but I want to very quickly give you a heads up that now coaches on your coaching calls will be introducing you to values if they haven't already. These are some values that they will use as guiding you and directing you in a certain direction, or how to not disempower yourself or lose performance as performance coaches. So I won't go through these in detail, but if you want, you can screenshot this. One of the coaches will share it on the chat, but it will be used on your coaching calls. Detachment, practicing progress over perfection, unconditional performance, empathy, bringing empathy to yourself over excuses as to why you did or didn't do something. Experiential learning. If you didn't take on the assignments, now we've asked 2 weeks in a row, some of you haven't raised your hand for having completed the assignments. Nimisha's completed the assignments. So Nimisha's implementing that value called experiential learning. That's a big part of our program. The learning on this program doesn't happen on this webinar. It happens outside of this webinar. Neutrality, right? This is, again, being neutral to people within our team, their level of learning, their tech familiarity or lack thereof, bringing compassion and patience and tolerance to them. Webinar 4 assignments, you're going to get, as I said, what's called the 100th training plan. If you haven't updated your MyFitnessPal working with me on Friday surgery, this weekend or starting next week is a good time to change it. I would, especially if you've not seen a shift in fat loss, I would reduce your carbs to about 20 or 25%. And I would, you could increase your protein to about 45 to 50% of protein, right? So this is one change that you can make, especially goes well with intermittent fasting. For Ankorers who have done intermittent fasting before, I'm inviting you guys to practice 0 calories, zero calorie foods till 5 p.m. For those of you that have done Ramadan before, you know it's very doable. We can go until 6 p.m., 6:15, 6:30 on certain days, and the human body becomes amazing after that cleanse. Here I'm only asking you to do it for 5 days. 5 days over the next 7 days. Can you do 0 calorie fast till 5 p.m.? We're not even saying sunset. Well, in the UK that might be sunset, but till 5 p.m. If you could do that. And then calculate your max HR, your 90% and your 70% number, share them on the chat. And coming up on the 5th Wednesday, which is next week, well, which is also day 30, there's some announcements from Coach Pri. Are you there? And we're now going to look at leaders that inspire people to join webinar 5. So are you somebody who your invite occurs to somebody else in your life as, I want to know what Bhavan's doing, I want to know what Nimish is up to, I want to know what Komal's up to, right? Something's new about her, something's different about her. It's fine to be able to just tell people you're working on you, but it's a contribution to people if you can invite them to have them value what you've begun to value, which is your well-being, and invite them to consider what they could get from the FitBanker community. And you have the amazing head coach Urvi Shah, who'll be running Thrive in 5 starting on 3rd November. Pri, I know you have an announcement there, but I want to share with you guys a sexy, amazing, lovely banoffee cake. And I'll be best friends with whoever can make this for me and send it over to me. But we're going to talk about a collab that we're doing. Ooh, what happened there? We have a collab coming up. It's just being finalized, so likely right now it's planned for 11th of October. It's a 3-hour session with a phenomenal chef who her belief is food is my love language, and she loves food, but she got into a fitness journey and health journey, and she might share a little bit about her story. She runs a business called Fitness Bakery out here in India, and she is going to be doing a 3-hour class exclusive for FitBankers with us. As Diwali is coming, she's going to work specifically on some Diwali treats, but she might add in also some cakes or cookies or something else that we ask her. We've got to finalize what she's going to be doing. It's going to be live streamed and interactive. The best way to participate in this is to first attend, watch the whole thing, take notes. You can or cannot, you don't have to have the ingredients ready beforehand, but Pri will confirm if maybe one of the dishes we'll do alongside her, but it might just slow down the process. And if you botch up halfway, there won't be time to ask questions. But this will be recorded, then you have the recording to do it at your own pace, and then you'll have a WhatsApp support group to share. I've done this, it's a bit hard, it's too soft, it's too gooey, how can I change this, how can I do that? It's a phenomenal thing, and it's available for a limited number of people. So it's going to be about £25 for this 3-hour session. And just being transparent with you, that's more or less our cost. There's about £2 or £3 fee we've added on there for like Eventbrite fees and payments to be sent to her. But she's based out in India. You can look her up on Fitness Bakery and on Instagram. But she's we've already trialed one of her classes, and those people that did attend it loved it. I've seen some clips of the recording. Very good quality, being done from a nice semi-commercial kitchen, but you can all do it from home. And very well explained and articulated. Plus, she recommends various sweeteners to binders to, what can alter the texture of what you make. Highly recommend you join it. Not to be missed. Pri, anything else on this or any other announcements?
Yes. Thanks, Paige, for asking. It's going to be at 10:30 a.m. UK time. That's the time it's going to be taking place on. And there'll be more information coming out around it. Also, can I go on to the next announcement?
Yeah. Do you have something to share from your end?
Yes, this is a big upcoming week for FITBANKER. So we have, Lena and everybody, get your pens and pencils out and paper out. Let's write this down. So on 8th of October, next week, Wednesday, we're not having a webinar, but your coaches are all phenomenal humans who have climbed all sorts of mountains, and they're coming to share an adventure panel interview that's going to happen at 6:30 p.m. UK time. So come, lean in, and it's an open invitation to everyone. Anyone who wants to join in, your family, friends, get everyone involved, because climbing that mountain was the most transformational thing I did for myself. And it was just magnificent. And the stories we have, like from Ramya, high at 50, getting high at 50, and then Beige coming off of Peru, the Peruvian adventures. So that's on the 8th of October. Now, on the 11th of October, alongside with this mithai Christmas recipe cooking workshop, we also have our trek and treat happening. And just to give everybody context about trek and treat, it's you're going to do 15 kilometers or burn 1,000 calories, and you can eat whatever you want on that day. So it'll be a great time to do the mithai workshop as well. Along with that, the Hampstead Heath for the UK participants, I highly recommend that the Hampstead Heath participants go for that, because doing it with coaches, doing it with community, doing it with other participants just gives you so much so much energy. You learn so much from each other. So definitely, if you're in the UK, I highly recommend you go to this trek, and I will send through a link of where you can sign up to go to this Hampstead Heath trek. So please make sure you go enjoy yourselves, be in the community, immerse yourself in there, right? And then they're also aligned with that, we're celebrating 10-year anniversary of FITBANKER, so there'll also be celebrations going on as well. So really exciting week. I'm super excited because it's also Interrupt week for us as well, where you're going to be doing your different exercises. You're going to be doing the intermittent fasting. So really take all of this on and just grow with the community, go with the flow. So much fun stuff happening. So join in the fun, join us, and excited for this upcoming week. Anything else, Ronnie?
No, it's just awesome. And this is, guys, we bring fun to what we do in this journey by participating with community. We're bringing a lot of new stuff and flavor to this program. So max out and make the most of these opportunities, because behavioral change happens when we apply the multiple facets of transformation from different perspectives and angles, from the types of habits we do, the types of programs we get onto, the type of learning, the community we interact with, the places we go to. Komal has just mentioned in the chat about the trek. Yes, there is a trek which was moved from last weekend to 11th of October. So, and that's also 10 years of treks. We started, and it's called Trek and Treat, as a play on Trick or Treat. That's how it began in 2015. So 10 years on, you guys will be joining the end of 10-year marks, or the milestone of 10 years of treks that we've done. So it's a great one to go if you're in London. And if you want to be part of this fitness bakery video, you could still register for it. You'll be given the recording and you'll have access to a support group to ask questions as you actually go through sampling it. So the recording is obviously just available to those that sign up and participate, and we'll have access to the lady that is running it. Yeah, you can even check out our website. We'll share all those details. We're just finalizing the poster and all the promo and the ticketing with her, but right now it's penned for 11th October at that time. And to get you prepared to prepare something healthy for the likes of Diwali that's coming up. And why not be a pattern interrupt to your family gathering by saying, hey guys, I brought something new, sweetened with stevia, sweetened with monk fruit, sweetened with a whole bunch of other stuff, and very well explained. Like, I think the last one she did was kaju katri, for those of you that know your Indian sweets. And how do you make kaju katri without sugar and without all the junk? What are some of the alternatives that gives you the same texture? It was impressive. I'm really impressed by it, and this is a professional that we're bringing on. So honestly, if this is a success, we could have future collabs with this person. If we don't have a great turnout, then yeah, I mean, those that attend will benefit from it, and we may not have it longer term. All right, on that note, guys, it's a wrap. Thanks all for being on, and we will see you guys. Well, next week is a session that I may or may not be on because of my travel and time zone, but don't miss next week, and I will see you guys at the guest webinar for sure in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.